Welcome to Business with Beers. I am your host, Brian Beers. This is a podcast for entrepreneurs who want to learn how to build and manage their wealth like they manage their business. My goal with every episode is to inspire you through the stories of my guests. This week, we got an awesome show with JP Shipp. JP runs an electrical contracting company that has over 50 employees doing over $12 million in revenue. JP and his partner have built the company from the ground up, starting 10 years ago with just two guys in a truck. A big part of JP's business is government contracts. He shares some insights on how he landed over $6 million this year and was the only company to bid on them. JP has been a grinder his whole life and shares a very inspirational story about his humbling childhood. He has some great insight on how he's always looked at life through a positive lens, even during the most challenging times. If you get value from this conversation, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts with your biggest takeaway and share this episode with another entrepreneur who you believe would also benefit. And before I get into today's show, I want to tell you about an extraordinary offer from a company that I am currently using called MyOutDesk. MyOutDesk offers professional virtual assistant services, and they also happen to be the #1 virtual assistant company by Tech Radar with over 700 five-star reviews. I've got many friends and associates that are among the thousands of their satisfied customers. I always get lots of listeners asking questions on how do I scale while lowering my costs. I use MyOutDesk to save over 70% versus a traditional in-person hire. So for Business with Beers listeners, MyOutDesk is offering a free double your business strategy session. Simply go to myoutdesk.com/beers, as in my last name, to schedule a call. And on this call, you will work one-on-one with one of their business consultants to design an action strategy to hire and launch a virtual assistant into your business today. Hey, well, welcome to the show, JP.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, well, this wouldn't be Business with Beers if I didn't ask you that me and you are at your favorite bar down in Maryland. What would we be drinking?
So I'd probably be drinking water, Brian, to be honest. I'd be there just
all right, that's cool.
Acting like I was going to have a beer. But if you were going to have a beer in Maryland,
yep,
I would drink with that whatever beer that you were offering. So I'm happily obliged in that.
Awesome. So if you could share your story, kind of who you are and what do you do, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so JP Shipp, owner of partner, one of two people that own Bailey and Shipp Electric out here in right a little bit outside of Annapolis, Maryland. We are a company that's roughly right under 50 employees total, doing roughly 12 million a year in revenue. Have really strong margins. Our profit margins are really, really strong. That's something that we really pride ourselves in, making sure that we operate in a lean fashion and that, people we push our people, to do their maximum effort. We don't, a lot of people wear multiple hats. And, if you worked at my company, most people would say, I don't think we have enough people to do what we're doing, but somehow we managed to get it done. I build the teams and I help motivate them and, show them that they were capable of doing things that I don't think they believed that they could do. We've always been very optimistic in the projects that we could take on. And there really hasn't been one project that we've faced yet that we weren't 100% sure how to do, but we end up figuring out how to do it. So a lot of younger people work at the company. I try to create that culture that we're all too smart not to figure something out. And, we have each other to figure it out through. So, like I said, I guess it's almost 10 years, which is pretty crazy to think, 10 years.
Okay. And you were one of the founders? You started the company?
Yes, sir, I did. Yep. I started the company back in 2000 I guess it's 2010.
Okay.
So it's the 11th year.
So day one, what did the company look like? And walk us through kind of your journey as an entrepreneur. From then on.
Day one. So day one, getting out of college, Smith School of Business, and I've got job opportunities to go Smith School of Business, NSA, Under Armour, and AstraZeneca, and they were all 80, 90 grand ish a year, and which is great at the time, 22 years old. But I was like making that much money as an electrician, like doing side work, and I was like, man, like I'm not even working full time, and I can make this. So I said, I don't think this makes a whole lot of sense. Like maybe I could start a company, maybe it'll work. I don't know. So this is also at, the end of, I guess it was that financial crisis, late 2008, 2009. And you're like, okay, I don't really know what that is, but let's just start working. So one guy in a van, becomes two guys in one van. And, two guys becomes four guys becomes eight. It doesn't happen overnight for sure. But, we just kept grinding through those early years, which were very stressful, to be honest with you. Because, I was doing the work, right? I'm an electrician, performing work. I'm doing everything, estimating, performing work, installing, closing, covering up, doing it all.
And then doing the business side, right? Too, managing the books,
right?
Sales. New leads coming in. Are you the one closing them too?
Yeah, at that time, yep. I was Mr. Do It All. One thing I did learn and got to take away from Smith School is that I needed to make sure that I surrounded myself with really intelligent people and smart people that most of the time were smarter than I was. And so I immediately bit off more I could chew and hired an attorney that I couldn't afford. I hired an accountant that I couldn't afford. I hired an insurance guy that was not the cheapest guy in town. And my actually, wealth management guy was also known to be, historically more expensive than other people. But I at that age, I could see through that there's a reason that these people are who they are, and that the reason that they charge what they charge. So I was like, I want to be like these people, so only way to be like them is to be like them, is to be with them, talk to them, be brushing shoulders with them. And then, once I got surrounded by that good team, which I still have today,
okay.
They really just keep helping me elevate and, show you things that you wouldn't know otherwise. So, So that's one thing that I would definitely tell people, young people, it doesn't matter if you're young or old, but starting a business is making sure that team that's around you is really strong, and, that they're going to support you right away. Yeah,
that's awesome. And sometimes, we think a price is someone's quote expensive, but really the price is a correlation, or should be a correlation, to the value that they bring. And so someone, if you vet them correctly, right, and they got good experience, they have insights, they're going to deliver so much more value to you that it's going to weigh, like you're going to get a return on that investment of that person, as opposed to just being, an expense line on your P&L for like legal expense or accounting expense. If your accountant can give you these ideas that saves you tens of thousands a year in your taxes, right? That like, and you pay them, $5,000, right? You get an 8x on your money or whatever it is. So I think that's an important lesson. I think a lot of people, there's a balance between you got to bootstrap, right, and grind it out versus, identifying, hey, this is actually an investment in a person to build my team that's gonna turn, this phrase, turn decades into days. Like it's gonna expedite my journey so much quicker because I have this awesome team around me. So that's an awesome lesson that you learned, and you learned it early. And like I said, for other people, no matter where they're at, like surround yourself with a good team is a core like step you have to do. So.
Yeah, Brian, I think a lot of people don't hold a lot of value, especially when they're just starting a business, and it's, you're already just trying to tread water and survive. And you're like, what do you mean? I could pay this other accountant like half, and you're like, it's the same thing, right? And no, it isn't. Apples aren't oranges. And unfortunately, the good people, they charge appropriately, which they should. And so, I think the first year that I really noticed that my accountant was worth his weight in gold, I think he saved me like $40,000 in taxes. And I thought that was like amazing. I was like, what? How much? Like 40?
Yeah. Yeah. You don't know until you don't know until you know. Right. And so that's why you hire good people. So, okay. So you're building the company. Are you growing through acquisitions, or is it purely just organic that you're just gaining market share and you're hiring people to just like absorb all this work you're getting now? Yeah.
I wish it was acquisitions. If I could build a time machine, I probably would have tried to do acquisitions much earlier. But yeah, it was all organic growth. It was all sweat equity, beating the streets, working half days. And by half days, I mean 12 hours, a day. You know what that means.
Yep.
And, I just kept moving, and attracting good talent by paying them well, creating that culture that's different, and, going after the clients that are, not easy to close, but once you get them on your team, that they're going to bring, return on that investment, year in and after.
So how long did it take, or how big was your company until you reached the point that you stopped, turning the wrench, for example, you stopped like doing the work and then you started being more kind of the owner and the manager and kind of working on the business concept?
Yeah, it was probably maybe 6 to 7 years ago. I mean, to be honest with you, if I have to get in to do something, I will. I think it's an important aspect as an owner, to
get your hands dirty. Yep.
Right. Get my hands dirty, but to have my team be confident that I'll do what I'm telling them to do. So, I'll show up and I'll work 12-hour days, with them, side by side. And they're like, why is he even here? Like, he doesn't need to be here.
Yeah.
But I want to let them know that I understand what they're doing. I respect what they're doing. I just think as a leader, you get a lot more return on your investment if they know that you're willing to do what you're telling them to do. And, not every day by any means, it makes no sense, but, do it when it matters.
Once in a while. Yep. Sure.
Yeah. So I feel that's important.
Okay. So have you grown? I mean, 50 employees for, service-based business. I mean, that's significant. What's the structure look like kind of now? Who at the kind of the top level, who are the key players? And then how do you really identify roles, responsibilities, and then, kind of manage the crews?
Yeah. So again, I mentioned this before, but I put a lot of, ownership on team leaders, right? I want them to take ownership of their responsibilities. So, I really do pay them well, and for them to be paid well, they have to do, above and beyond what would be standard. So, for instance, I have one guy, he manages the commercial division. The commercial division is roughly 3 to 4 million a year in revenue.
Okay.
And he manages project managers that if those project managers, I require them to sell the project and manage the project. Most companies, like my company, would have an estimator. He estimates it and he passes it to the project manager. So I have a different philosophy where I believe the project manager who sold it needs to be invested in the project to make sure it's successful. So they have to monitor the profit along the way. So if the profit is not where it needs to be, they don't get compensated for it. But if it's in the margins that we are expecting, they're compensated really well for it. So I don't like the whole, hit it and quit it, sell it, forget it. I want them to be with the project from the beginning through the end. And so if you ever hired a company, a lot of times people have an estimator come out, even residentially, they'll come out and they'll like the guy that sold the project, and then they'll never see him again. And that's not the philosophy that we employ. I want the people that sold you the job to be the people that stand next to you at the end and, make sure that they get it done. So you got commercial division manager, you got residential division manager, you got generator division manager. You have an operations, manager that oversees the, entire operations of the company. You've got me at the top that's kind of chatting with everybody. They always tell me that I shouldn't do certain things. They're like, why are you even getting involved? But I like to stay engaged to what's happening. So, I'll be in meetings that really I have no value in being in, but, I just like letting them know that, hey, I'm listening. I know what's going on. And also I'd like to, take advice, if I may not have heard it if I wasn't at that meeting. So, the office staff is really strong. I have an awesome accountant that works, and she actually acts like all the money is her money, which is wonderful.
Yeah, that's a good trait. Yep.
Yeah, I have a residential service. I like to call him the assistant manager, but all he is, which this is one of the best things that ever happened to me. I don't want to go on a tangent, but this story is pretty important.
Okay.
I had a technician, the guy's late 50s, early 60s. Overweight guy, one of the nicest guys in the world. He had been with me since day one. He's getting overweight. He can't really perform the work. I got to make a decision. Bob, you can't do the work anymore. Do you want to try something new? I don't do anything else. There's nothing else new I can do. I'm an electrician. That's it. He's like, I'm just going to go drive school buses. So I sat back and I was like, man, what can this guy do? Like he's not office oriented. I don't think he knows how to even type an email. So I said, hey, Bob, like, what do you think about trying to work in the office? And he goes, work in the office? I said, yeah. I said, you're really great with people. You know, you're nice. You talk to people on the phone really well. He's like, all right, well, how much am I going to get paid? I said, well, probably about half of what you're making right now. And he goes, what? I said, yeah, it's not the same. And he's like, all right, well, can you do 2/3 of what I'm making now? I said, yeah, I can do that. I'll go 2/3. So we negotiated the price. I got him in the office, hands down, best decision I ever made. The guy handles almost every phone call that comes through the Bailey and Shipp doors, and the customers love him. This guy is super knowledgeable, master electrician, you know, somehow knows you from somewhere. If you call in, he just gives you that calming feel. We didn't have him before. You know, we had, you know, people that were respectful on the phone, but they weren't knowledgeable. They weren't master electricians. So now, you know, when people call, they think Bob's he owns the company, that, you know, because he's so confident about talking about electrical work. That decision, which it was an accident, you know, I didn't plan any of that, but it's been almost 4 years now. And that was one of the best decisions I ever made, you know. So if you call the company today, you'll more than likely get him, and you'll understand what I'm saying about, you know, how well he is on the phone.
Yeah. And the lesson there is, you know, you identify the right people because they have like these core values that align with your company, right? Like he's a hard worker, he's motivated, right? He represents you well. And it's a matter of, hey, you know, but the role changed, right? He's just not good at that role. And it's like, hey, can you find another role for him that, you know, we can get value out of and be a win-win. So, I mean, that is it. That's it's more than luck. You identify that and you did something rather than just letting them go and say, hey, good luck. That's an awesome story.
It took a, you know, I had to really think deeply about it. You know, he was like a second father to me. You know, it's like, I can't let this guy go. You know, we gotta find something he can do. He can deliver material. But once I realized, I was like, man, this guy, everyone loves him. And he talks so well. I was like, we got to put him on the phone. And everybody just says, awesome. Man, that's great that you got him in there. I actually had another instance like that where I had to make some tough decisions and I had to shift people around. And luckily the Bob scenario had already happened. So I knew that it probably could work. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it has, you know, like you said, you identify those core values. They align with your company. You know who they are. They know who you are. And you just sometimes have to retrain them and get them retooled for a new position. Awesome.
Hey, so for the next section here, if you don't mind, can you walk us through kind of the numbers of running electrician business? So you do 12 million in revenue, you said. So how do you go about pricing a job? Is it an hourly rate, like kind of plus materials? Like walk us through first, what does it look like at the top level? And then we'll kind of work down from maybe some margins and, you know, what things you need to follow to make sure you run a profitable business.
Yeah. So we have essentially 3 different businesses in one business. So I'll explain so it makes sense. So our first and most, you know, cash on demand, if you will, business is our residential service division, right? So that's sending out a tech or 2 techs. They show up to, you know, add recessed lights, you know, change outlets, install USB outlets, whatever electrical project you would need. So we've recently changed that pricing structure within the last year and it works great. We charge $60 for us to show up. And that's just to get us there. Once the techs get there, they assess what you've asked them, you know, what you want them to do. They then provide you with a price. If you end up doing the work at that moment in time, then the $60 fee is waived and then they perform the work. So if it's a larger project, say it's like a residential addition or, you know, a project's going to take, you know, 2, 3, 5, potentially 10 days, which it does happen, then I would send out strictly an estimator with there's no charge. That is a free charge. And we would provide an estimate based upon the scope of work. And then we would, you know, get approval. Once we obtain approval on the estimate, we take 50% deposit, 50% upon completion. Most projects require a permit, you know, electrical license. Sure. And so we get the permit and make sure we do it, you know, appropriately and close that job out. So that's essentially the residential department in a nutshell. So generator department, which is, you know, one of the smallest actual mixes in our business, they do roughly about, you know, 500 to $1 million roughly, because it depends on, you know, that year. Generators are very cyclical. They're, you know, based upon storms and that kind of thing. So we have generator maintenance agreements that we do annually. We have roughly 500 customers that are on our annual contract to get their generator service. That's roughly $375. And then we have the customers that aren't on our, annual agreements that call in, that, they call in when they want it, so, you could have 100 extra that year, you could have 300, yep. You don't know. And then we have some generator maintenance contracts with some local government agencies. We have the Virginia Department of Transportation, Maryland Department of Transportation. We have some work with Anne Arundel County. So we maintain their generators, and this is commercially, but it's still under the same.
So you try to get them on a subscription model to, have the guaranteed revenue and do the service and take care of it. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, which is ideal. And then beyond that, we have our commercial and then our government, which you can kind of loop them in the same category. The commercial jobs, they are estimated based upon the scope of work. You get plans, you get information, you give them a price. It's really strongly driven by relationship management. So, a client can say, hey, look, your number's, 680,000. I had another guy at 650. I'd like to use you guys. And then you play the game, 650. Okay, I can do 660. And you get to close the deal. So that it's really, really relationship driven. The government side, which is where I like to spend most of my time because the profit margins are really strong, is where you have to bid projects and you have to be the lowest qualified bid. So you have to be the lowest, to be accepted and qualified. But if you're able to search and hunt and find jobs that are not mainstream, the ones that are difficult to find, obviously then there's less competition. So as you get higher in the contract value, 3 million, 5 million, 6 million, there's less competition because these people aren't bonded. They don't have the financial strength. Remember, I mentioned that at the beginning. Yep. So if you have the financial strength, you're already in a different category that other people can't play in. So then you find those jobs that are hard and boom, you close them at, really high margins.
Okay. So you're trying to find government contracts that are on the high spectrum, right? Because you have less people competing. There's just not as many companies that either probably want to commit that amount of time and, manpower to do the deal, or just they're not capable of it, right?
It's a mix. It's I see more often than not that they're just not capable because they don't understand the paperwork aspect of it. They see paperwork and they run and they're like, I don't want to be dealing with that.
So how much a year are you doing in government work?
So about half our revenue is government work.
So about 6 million a year. And is that split up just like a couple big jobs, like 2 or 3 really big jobs?
Yeah, it depends on the year. We just sold one job alone that was 5 million, and then I just sold another one behind that. It's 1.7. So,
and how long will that take you? A $5 million?
The $5 million job is a 365-day project. So it's 1 year.
Yeah. Okay.
1 year.
How do they pay you?
So they're slower pay. They normally they say it's 30 days, but average it's more like 60.
Okay. And you set milestones for that, so you're not waiting a year to get paid, right?
Yeah, you set it's called a schedule of values, and you create that at the beginning of the project, and then the government contracting officer or whoever is your point of contact, which is sometimes a construction management company, they approve that schedule of values. Okay. And they say, okay, we approve that you can bill based upon those milestones. Okay,
interesting. For somebody who's in a service-based business looking to get into this type of work, where do they go to find these government contracts?
Yeah, that's the millions of dollar question. This is all, but it's all public, right? This is all public information. Yep. So depending on if they're looking for federal, state, or local, which would be your county government, they all have different avenues. So federally, the SAM's website is available. Yep. There's plenty of opportunities there, but it's really tough to navigate. And then like for our state, the state of Maryland, they have a website called eMaryland Marketplace, also known as EMMA. That's what most people call it. And you can see all these public bid opportunities right online. Search them all. And then locally for us, Anne Arundel County has been a really strong supporter of Bailey and Shipp the last 3 years. And they publish things through this website called Port, P-O-R-T. And that's they just, whenever they're ready to come out, they just send them out. And, you have to be paying attention because they don't remind you. They don't tell you anything. You just have to always be checking. And you can set reminders. You can set, keywords on your internet search capabilities that could, email you automatically once, those keywords pop up. But you have to be looking, because they're not gonna, they can't recommend anybody. So they just
they get the bids Yep.
And then they actually open the bids publicly, which is something that's pretty exciting. So, if you send a bid in, there's actually the last bid we did was public, and there was no other bidders. We were
so you can see what other people bid at.
Their numbers and who bid it, which is cool because then you can kind of assess. Okay, my number was right or it was totally wrong.
Okay. So
if you're the engineers' estimates too.
If you're the only bid, can you resubmit a new bid at a higher price?
I wish, Brian. No, they take your bid, and actually, oftentimes, if your bid's too high, they'll kick the bid out entirely and have to go back to publish it again.
Okay, all right, yeah. If it's like nowhere near what their budget is.
Yeah.
Cool. That's good stuff. Hey, so the next section, I want to move on to kind of your wealth building journey. One of the things I'm working on teaching people and talking about is to treat building your wealth and managing your wealth like you manage your business. And so it means, you set goals, you track it, you take control of it, right? You diversify, you take a proactive approach as opposed to, what kind of like the Wall Street world wants to teach you is just give it all to financial advisors and, they have control over it. So if you could kind of walk you through kind of maybe your philosophy on wealth building kind of up to this point, and then maybe kind of the future of where you see, how you're going to generate income from beyond, just your business.
Yeah, Brian, I just want to say that I think that's a great aspect, an idea that you'd like to help people build their own personal wealth. I couldn't agree with you more. Taking control of your own wealth is so key and so important because, you're right. These other people, they just want to take your money and put it to work, but, you're getting a very small percentage of that return on investment. And, whether, if you have the opportunity to do it on your own, then you should take it. So, so I've taken that exact same approach since I was very young. Although I do recommend maximizing your 401k, your Roth IRA. And if you are young enough and you start a whole life insurance policy, I know there's a whole debate whether whole life or not works. That's a whole nother story, but I think you maximize your tax incentive, retirement accounts.
Yep. 100% agree. And I have a whole life, infinite banking, is what they call it, strategy where you overfund these cash value life insurances, they build up and they can borrow from it. But whole other topic, but it's lots of ways out there, right? That you can, warehouse your cash, as they say. But
I've been doing that since I was 25 years old. So I totally agree with you. So, but me personally, I recommend that you should work on building your wealth with things that you're familiar with. So don't put yourself in a position to go buying cryptocurrency if you've never heard about it and you don't know what it is. But if you're in construction like I am, which I've been in for a very long time, I understand what real estate markets are like. I understand what real estate wealth is like. And I've seen a lot of these people. I've brushed shoulders with them and I've watched what they've done. So I just simply copy what they've been doing. So, I've been accumulating a portfolio of rentals. I've been able to, I luckily still manage them on my own currently, but, it's getting close to where I won't be able to manage it by myself much longer. But having rental properties that are generating at least enough to cover your note if you have a mortgage, they're going to be worth what they're going to be worth in 15 to 30 years. I recommend getting 15-year mortgages. Me personally, delay. I've been a big advocate of delaying gratification. If you don't need the money now, why use it now? So use it and forget you even had it, let it go to work. And in 15 years, you have a house that's paid off.
How many properties do you have now?
So right now I have 7.
Okay. All single family homes?
No, actually, 4 of them are townhouses. So I personally believe that townhouses and condos are the best rentals, only from experience. Single family houses have a lot of opportunities for things to break, not work well. You have a well at every house that's, typically, away from a city. You got a septic system. So those are 2 things alone that if you've got a condo or a townhouse, typically, you don't have to combat with. The yards are smaller, if not non-existent, and the houses are much easier to maintain. And the return, the turnover is normally a little higher. You can get a tenant in 2-3 years at your single family house, but the condos and townhouses, there's only so many things that have to be fixed.
And you have the HOA fees and some of the things you just gotta, make sure your rent covers so you can cash flow on them. So.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's a great point, Brian. So yeah, make sure that you pay those HOA fees. I know from experience they will sue you. So I missed one HOA, this Piney Orchard HOA, and they come at you hard. Pit bulls. I think I owed them $350, and they were putting a lien on that house.
Yeah, they got it systematized. You talk about getting their money.
They don't play.
Awesome. So stick to what you know, delay gratification, invest in real estate, pay down debt, keep it simple. I think that's good, right? Like the simpler the property in a sense, right? The less work you got to put into it, which makes it more passive. What else?
Yeah. So, if you feel comfortable with, investing in the market, if you have that knowledge and you feel confident, there's companies that you believe in. I really believe you need to, believe in the company and who, look at the leadership, look at the management, look at their actual numbers, is the company profitable or not? And, if you see, long-term growth available, buy stock options in companies that you believe in and just hold on to it, depending on, your age. If you have the time to wait, please wait. Dollar cost averaging is definitely the best way to purchase stocks. Don't blow it all on one, and, just like you said, diversify, buy the companies that you believe in and just keep an eye on it. But, don't be married to your ticker on your phone, because then you'll lose track of what, your everyday focus is, on your company if you're building a company. So, you don't want to be too distracted with, focusing on your personal wealth. If there's an opportunity cost with time. So, you got to spend it wisely and, do it to where it makes sense.
Yep. And for entrepreneurs like us, the best investment we can get is to invest in our own business. Yep. Right. I mean, I can go out and we can buy more. We run auto repair shops, right? We can go buy and we can get 100% of our money back within the first year, if not more. I'm not getting 100% return on my money anywhere else besides that. So, so over years, how have you grown yours? Is it money back into it? Is it marketing to grow it? How do you invest back in your business to grow it?
That's a great question, Brian. So oftentimes I try to invest in people. So I try to attract good talent to get them on my team. Again, that's financially driven. So I, get the good people on the team. I buy equipment that holds value. We own our building where we operate out of currently. We pick up, material that we know is going to hold value. That, we buy a lot of material that holds value. So you buy in bulk,
huge bulk to save costs on the material.
Correct. Then at the end of our fiscal year, instead of, like normal, instead of sending it to Uncle Sam, we'll buy all the things that we know we're going to need the next year. And, we'll have already had them paid for. So.
Okay. Awesome. Who's been an important mentor or coach in your life, and what have they taught you?
Yeah. I haven't had one. People ask me this question all the time because, you don't know my whole backstory, but, I had challenges, things stacked against me, but, I don't look at it like that. I look at it like, to be honest with you, I've always just believed in myself. I hate to simplify it. There's never been one guy or woman that I was like, okay, I'm going to copy and emulate them. I've been able to be smart enough to identify, who's somebody I should copy and who's somebody I shouldn't copy. I'm very thankful that I've had that. If I had to pick one person that really has shaped me, who my life is, it's really got to be my grandmother. She took care of me when I was, when I was 0. My mom had me when she was 14. Oh, wow. So, I had a lot of, organic love that was shown to me that, I've been able to, it's grown since I was, 1, 2, 0, so. Yeah. She gave me, good outlook on life. And, I've been an entrepreneur just like you for as long as I can remember. So, I never really knew I knew that I wasn't going to work for somebody ever. It just never was going to be in the cards for me. So, cutting grass, delivering newspapers, you name it, I just.
Yeah, you had that bug. Really,
yeah. It just wasn't in there for me.
Would you mind sharing some of that backstory and some of those challenges that you've gone through and you've overcome?
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with that. So, as I mentioned, my mom was 14 when I was born. So my grandmother pretty much raised me until my mom was able to, like take me back, if you will. We grew up in a mobile home establishment. Trailer park is what most people call it. So, 14. By the time I was 14, I was pretty much raising myself. Really, by the time I was 12, I was essentially raising myself. So, my mom would tell me, hey, stay out of trouble type of thing. She wouldn't advocate for me to get in trouble, but there was never really a deadline, a rule. Like I didn't have to be home at any certain time. I had free will to do whatever I wanted to do, which was good and bad. So I was able to experience a lot of things early in my life that most people didn't experience until they're in college. You know what I'm saying? So I had a lot of real world, life experiences that I'm like, you're doing stuff that you think is normal, but then, you're like, whoa, I'm way ahead. So, when you start realizing you got to take care of yourself, you're like, okay, I got to make money because it's not growing on trees. Like I had to buy my own school clothes, all that stuff. So I started the first job I ever had was, delivering newspapers. While I was delivering newspapers, I started to cut grass, which my lawn business was Grasshoppers. I don't know why I thought that was a good name back then, but it was obviously all cash business. Life was good. I ended up getting another job at Giant Food, being like a bagger, and then I got moved to like shop stocking, and I'm still cutting grass on the weekends, and I'm making money. Life seems to be good. And, I'm like, man, like this is, there's gotta be more, Yeah. So by the time I was 15, I was like 15 and a half. I was then working at a golf course close to my house where there's a bunch of rich people. That's how I called them rich people back then. They're members of this golf course. And I'm like, how these guys, like, how did they get here? Like, look at these cars, look what they're wearing, man, life is good to be them. So, you start talking to them, asking questions. And I end up meeting one of my good friends' dads there. I knew who he was, but I wasn't like friends, the dad. I didn't know his dad. I just knew of him. And he was like, hey, you ever thought about being an electrician? And I was like, I don't know, man. Like how much you get paid? And he was like, you get $11 an hour. That's what we start off. I was making $6. It was almost double. So I was like, okay.
How old were you then? 16-ish?
15.
15, okay. Yep.
Yeah, I was still not driving yet. I was riding my bike to work because it was about 3 miles away. So it's not too bad. So I told him, I said, yeah, I'd love to start right away. Like I'm quitting tomorrow, So he hired me right away. That's right then that moment in time is when I became an electrician, almost 20 years ago. So my mom had other children along the way. So I had I guess I was 11 when my brother that I was really close with was born. So my brother is born. I'm helping, raise him, along the way, but I'm still young too. So go through high school, I'm now ready to go to college. I'm still working as an electrician. I end up going to University of Maryland. While I'm at University of Maryland, I ended up coaching my little brother's lacrosse team, really his mentor. I'm like his dad, his brother, same thing. So I'm doing that through college, putting myself through college. It is what it is, and you just got to work hard. You got to work hard. Yep. So I get through all that. I'm now, business is rolling, electrical work's rolling. My little brother's still he was with me all along the way. Unfortunately, he ended up, when I was 28, I was 28, he ended up passing away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He had a four-wheeler accident. It was like one of the most toughest things that's ever happened in my life. So I'm like this kid that I raised, because I was he was 18 when he passed away. So I was like, oh my God, like this is horrible, like just a freak accident. But it was like, it was really challenging because it's like, man, this is all I ever knew, and he's who I knew, like I'm his everything, So, I had had a good support. I think I was about to be married or I was married. I can't remember the time, I was going to be married. So, I had my future wife was very supportive and her family was supportive. We got through that, I'm back on it, still running the company, right? Yeah, at that time, still running the company. So couple of years after that, my mom overdoses on drugs and dies, I'm like, oh, but me and her were more like friends, it wasn't like a mom-son kind of relationship. I still loved her. I was, but I need to take care of her too. So that happens, and, you just gotta she actually never met my daughter, which was crazy because, my daughter was born in like June and she ended up passing away in, I guess it was August. So 2 months my daughter was alive, she never met her. So, you look back and you're like, man, like, why does this stuff happen? Not to mention, I never mentioned my father for a reason because he was never in my life. He was never around.
Yeah.
But it was actually, again, I look at that situation like a blessing because I now know who my father is, right? And I know that if I would have been around him, I would have picked up all the bad habits that he has. Like I see that now. So I'm like, wow, I'm actually lucky that I wasn't around him, so, I even had more things that I didn't talk about. I try to like cram a lot in a little bit of time, but I've had a lot of challenges in life that I've been able to flip, and I've been able to say, you know what, like it's here to make me stronger. Like I can do it. I wouldn't get put in this situation if I was gonna fail. So, I looked at myself and said, hey man, you got to pick yourself up. Like you got to do, if you don't do it, no one's going to do it. And if you have that same, mentality with everything that you come into contact with, you really can do anything, because, no one is going to push you harder than you. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not possible. So, the life challenges that, happened to me throughout the way, I'm very thankful for all of them. I have a picture of the trailer that I grew up in. I look at it almost every single day. So like, I'm reminded, like, this is where you came from. And, don't forget, you got to keep working hard. You got to keep being humble. You got to do the right thing. You can't fall off, because you can go back to where you started. It's very easy to do. People get, lost in the day to day, and they, forget the most things that, what's very important, and they forget who they were to get to where they are. You know what I mean? So I try to make sure that I remind myself of those things and, just appreciate, every single day.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. I mean, you have such an inspirational story, and to take that positive outlook. And, a lot of people, in your situation would probably think, why does this happen to me? Right. And they're blaming someone else, and they're taking this negative view, while you're looking at it through a positive lens to say, hey, this is a challenge, but what can I learn from it? And how can I continue to improve and then impact, those around me? And, now you built a huge company, and, it sounds like you have a lot of good employees that you pay well, and, you're the rising tide around you is kind of lifting all the boats. And so, but man, thanks for sharing that. That's an awesome story. And I think an inspiration, or should be, to a lot of people. Yeah.
I mean, I've been, I don't want to bore you with my life story, but, people that know me, there's more that I can share, but they do believe, like, oh man, JP, you got to write a book about this. You got to write a book about how to overcome life challenges. And like you said, there's definitely times when I've wondered, why me? I've definitely thought that, but when I remind myself, I'm like, it is you. Yeah. You're here. So you want to get out of it, you get out of it.
Yep. Take action, right? You have a plan, you take action, you keep grinding. Obviously that's the culture, like you said, in your organization, it starts with you, which is, you're going to push to the limits. You're going to get people outside of their comfort zone. You're going to take on these big projects, and know you're going to get it done. And I mean, that's your story, right? That's how you were raised, and you had to figure it out. And now you're applying the same principles and teaching your guys the same thing. So that's
fake it till you make it.
There you go. So what's next? What's on the next horizon for you and in your company? And
so, I haven't shared this with a whole lot of people, but, there's been a lot of, some significant interest with companies that are interested in buying us. Maybe, I've had people want to buy our company many of times throughout, the years, but none of them that were significant offers. And I was like, nah, there's no way I'm going to take that. So there's a possibility that if the right offer comes along, I'd be willing to sell the company. And, they still would have to stay on for a little bit. And, make sure that the transitions, appropriately done. So that is an option. That's a possibility. I'd really like to explore the well drilling, with Shane, because I know that, I know the supply and demand, the factors are there, and that company can be very successful. But, again, like I told you before, you got to remind yourself that there's an opportunity cost. So if I take away from Bailey and Shipp, then I'm not focused on Bailey and Shipp, on doing something else. So, like you said, simplification is really key. Make sure your time is really, impacted effectively. So, I'm 35 now. I have two small children, a 2-year-old and a 0-year-old. So, before I'm 40, I really want to take a full year off and travel with, the whole family. However, I'm able to do that. I know financially I'm able to do it, but, being able to,
operationally.
Operationally step away for a full year and really just enjoy, life with them. So, I've spoken to a lot of, wealthy people about this, and, they think it's crazy, in a way, because, they didn't do it, and I told them, I said, look, like, I want to experience prime time life in my prime. And, I don't want to regret not having, these really
years,
important moments. Yeah. I mean, they're only little for a little while. So, I really I'm confident that we're going to be able to get it set up. My wife is already kind of getting our itinerary and plan set up,
Okay.
We're going to take a boat. If we're going to fly, we're going to, we're not really sure the logistics of it, but, the planning is in preparation.
That's awesome. Any books you're reading now that you'd like to recommend?
I'd love to tell you, I am, but not currently. I'm still deep in the operations of Bailey and Shipp. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Awesome. Where can listeners connect and find out more kind of about you and your company?
So, I mean, obviously, you got, we have our website, needelectric.com. Bailey and Shipp has a lot of social media accounts. They got, Facebook, Instagram, and, Twitter. But most of the content that Bailey and Shipp posts out, it's through Facebook. It seems to be pretty consistent median with, our customer base. Facebook really has become, if you will, it is the standard of all ages. So, a lot of that stuff, but if anybody wants to connect with me directly, I can provide, my email and, phone number. But, I try not to get too distracted.
Awesome.
Easy to do.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your journey through business and your strategies on wealth building and, some of your core lessons there. So thank you for the time and wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, Brian, I'd like to hear, I flip the coin and hear from you. So I don't know if anybody's interviewed you yet, but
I've been on a few. I'm trying to get on some more, but I'll share them out once I'm a guest. Yep.
You have to share me some of the ones that you were on, so I can learn more about you.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks again, and I'll talk to you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Have a good one.